On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Mark Heller to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Heller shares a story from social drinking to alcohol dependence and ultimately recovery. What started as casual partying after high school slowly spiraled into drinking alone, missed work days, and the loss of an important relationship. With support from his workplace and his girlfriend, Mark made the life-changing decision to quit. Today, after over 2,200 days alcohol-free, Mark shares how he reclaimed his life and offers hope to anyone struggling with alcohol dependence. This will be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are or whatever you are doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast and get access to previous episodes on Facebook at Survive and Thrive 8791, the podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you liked what you heard. If there's a topic or you know a guest who would love to share their story or tell their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, mental illness, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. This is where we get into introducing the episode and our guest is sitting here next to me with a grateful t-shirt. I like it. According to the internet, and the internet is always right, correct, Mark?
Yes, it is.
He says, yes, it is. If you're in my house, I don't need the internet. I don't need Alexa. I don't need any of that. I got my wife.
You got somebody else to let you know you're right or wrong.
And I got my wife, and she's always right. According to an AI, artificial intelligence overview, it's difficult to pinpoint the exact number of men getting sober in the U.S. each year due to the fluctuating nature of addiction recovery and the lack of centralized tracking system. However, data indicates that millions of Americans, including men, achieve and maintain sobriety each year. And my guest has done that for quite a large number of days. Today, I welcome Mark Heller to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Raised in Fitchburg, Wisconsin, Mark attended Oregon High School and is a proud Panther. After graduating from high school, Mark would take his talents to the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point before transferring to the University of Wisconsin-Madison for a semester and then finding the right fit at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, where he would earn a degree in business administration and marketing. After wearing many hats in his professional life, Mark has found a home with Wisco Real Services. Today, I'm so glad you could join us, Mark Heller. What is up?
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. You almost got, you're missing lacrosse, lacrosse, you're missing Platteville.
There are a few more that I could have got to.
Oshkosh, you kind of had a tour of what used to be
right.
the Wisconsin State University
Eau Claire,
Conference.
I had missed also.
Eau Claire, River Falls,
yep.
Superior, but I think it's the WEAC, the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference now. They changed that. First of all, I want to offer I know we talked about this earlier, some congratulations to you. You, along with your wife, Jen, are the first husband and wife that have appeared on Survive and Thrive 8791.
Awesome.
Check is in the mail, so
that's right.
That should be coming one of these days.
Not sure if you should be paying us or we should be paying you.
Well, we'll see. How's the summer been going? I know we're kind of into it now. I'm almost in July 1st already tomorrow.
Yeah, it's been great. We finally got out. So Jen and I got out and went to Sedona, Arizona for about a week.
Oh, I've been there.
A couple weeks ago. So I got to do some relaxing, hiking, vortexing, stuff like that. So I'm learning as I go on stuff like that.
I'm going to toss you a couple of questions to see if you did these. Did you take the pink Jeep tour?
We did not.
I would have recommended that.
Oh, okay.
It was kind of cool.
Okay.
And then did you also find and stumble upon those little rock formations and that people would put together?
Yep. And then we also did, there's like an energy wheel and a different little, I can't remember the name of it that we went to, but she's into all the vortex and energies and I'm learning.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, but it was great for hiking too, and it's beautiful out there.
Did you go to the edge of town where you start climbing the road to Flagstaff? There's a big bridge. I mean, it's really pretty cool. I don't know if you got to the edge of town.
I don't think we got that far up. We went to we had a house that overlooked the rocks, and it was just, you got up in the morning and you're already looking at it before you even got out of bed. It was beautiful. And then early and afternoon hikes usually.
Yeah, what kind of bummed me, my wife and I, and my daughter was with us, I believe, was we came rolling in at night. So we didn't see anything.
Right.
And I imagine that it would have been jaw dropping, because it was pretty jaw dropping when I woke up the next morning.
Right.
Looking around, and I'm like, holy smokes.
That's awesome.
Yes. Any big plans besides your trip to Sedona this summer?
Not necessarily big plans for us, but we've been trying to redo our landscaping in our backyard for the last 3 years, and I think that's happening starting next week.
I'm glad you didn't walk into the house with like a cane or a walker, because usually, at least for me, when I'm doing landscaping, lifting sod and shoveling and whatnot, my back usually goes out.
We're going to hire this done this time. I'm getting, I guess, wiser as I get older. So
as you get wiser, yeah, you can pay for that.
Yeah,
some of that
right,
stuff.
exactly. That's right. You get a clear head, and then you can afford to pay for it.
Save that back. Mm-hmm. Before we get to your story, I need to talk about our sponsor quick. Here, our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from cooking dinner. Do you cook dinner?
No, generally I don't.
You don't?
My wife loves to, so she usually does it. I'm perfectly capable of cooking my own dinner when she's not around, and doing it for both of us, but she generally likes to, so usually she does that. But
what's your favorite genre, or your favorite?
I think the favorite, she cooks homemade pizzas on Friday nights. So it's organic, healthy, good pizza, but it's delicious. So I look forward to every Friday night for that.
Almost any kind of pizza is pretty good.
Yeah, generally.
With their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere, people keep coming back. With locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Waunakee, and Mount Horeb, most communities in Dane County, which encompasses Madison, Wisconsin, and the surrounding area, can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. And I got a little drum roll here for you. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
Yes, we have.
You have. All right, give me which one of the 4 locations.
I've been to all of them.
Oh, nice.
Except for Mount Horeb, which is actually funny because we lived in Mount Horeb, but that didn't open until after we moved. Mm-hmm. So I've been to the other 3.
The same decor is all the same. The menu is essentially the same. They did switch about a couple of weeks ago to their, quote, summer menu, but I'm a big pizza guy, so I love their pizza, and you like their...
I like their ahi tuna salad.
Ahi tuna salad.
And also their B&H sampler. We usually get that every time we go to.
B&H sampler, right? On the podcast, our guests follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like. So we'll talk about Mark's history, what happened to get Mark on the podcast. And in segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened and get into what it's like now. And we discuss Mark's 5 suggestions for thriving. So you were raised in Fitchburg, Wisconsin. Probably not much green space between there and Madison anymore.
Nope.
What was life like growing up for you as a young guy?
It was great. Pretty standard, I would say middle class, Midwestern lifestyle. My parents got divorced when I was 2, so I grew up in 2 households, but they had split custody, so that was pretty normal, and it's all I ever knew. So seemed fine to me, but had a great childhood, had a brother 2 years older than I was, so we hung out together sometimes and had good friends, good summer jobs, so pretty normal.
Pretty normal standard life. I was just going to ask you about your mom and dad and siblings, but you already covered that.
Oh, okay.
And that's okay. You have an amazing wife who we had on back in, I want to say, April or May, to discuss her story, and I would encourage the listeners to maybe do these back-to-back, power through a couple hours of the Hellers and see how life has treated them. But let's talk about your amazing wife from your point of view, and then you've got some cats that you treat like humans.
Yeah.
Spin some yarns about them.
So Jen and I, basically, we live in Lake Mills together, have a nice home there. She works from home. which means I can't because our house isn't big enough for both of us from working from home. So works out that I'm outside the house now, and we don't have any children of our own, but we do have 2 cats, Janice and Jimmy, named after Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix.
I was going to ask that, yes.
And they were named that when we found them at Angel's Wish in Verona, and they were bonded, so you needed to take them both. And they named them that because Janice has a raspy voice. So when she meows, it sounds, I guess, like Janis Joplin a bit. So we just kept the names because we thought it was awesome.
I love how they spin things where they tell you that in order to take 2 cats, they know exactly what to say to you, that they're bonded. Or for us, we were at Angel's Wish. We had a couple of cats from there, and they said, well, you got to have 2 because, one will be homesick and whatever. And then they told us a couple of cats were brothers. I mean, really, how do you know that?
Yeah, you don't. Right. They found them in a box next to each other on the side.
Yes.
But
so
for ours, Jen actually only wanted to get 1 cat. That was the plan when we went there. And
that's always the plan.
Yeah. And I was like, there are 2 cats here and they're together. We have to get them both. And no, we only want. I'm like, well, we have 2 laps. So aren't you going to be jealous if I have a cat sitting on my lap or vice versa? And then that just made sense to her. So we ended up getting both of them.
Yeah.
So now.
So you drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, now I give her crap sometimes. Like when I have one on my lap, I'm like, which one of these wouldn't you have wanted? It's pretty funny at this point.
You would attend Oregon high school class of 1998, and you agreed you're a Proud Panther.
Yeah.
What were you involved in high school?
Well, I played in the orchestra from 4th grade all the way through the end of high school. So I was
what instrument?
Stand-up bass.
Okay.
So that was always pretty fun.
By the way, that doesn't mean anything to me. I appreciate orchestra, but
yeah, sort of a tall cello, if you will.
Tall
so
cello.
You don't sit in a chair and play it. You kind of stand up or sit on a stool and play it. It's the dudes in the back picking it, making the bass in the background.
And when you got the crowd wrapped into you, are you flicking guitar pick?
Yeah. So it's different but the same. Yes. So it's not as cool as you're making it sound, but it was, you kind of have the beat of the whole thing, which was fun. But in addition to that, I played tennis for 3 years. Senior year, my buddy and I joined the cross-country team because a lot of the girls in our school were on the cross-country team. So we thought trying cross-country made sense. But yeah, I just had a great childhood, had great life with sports. Growing up, I played club soccer with all my friends too. So
after high school, you would take your talents to the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point, then University of Wisconsin Madison, before finding the right fit at the University of Wisconsin Whitewater. I'm glad you stuck with it. But what was the deal with the tour?
So originally, my school of choice was UW-Madison. And my backup school was Stevens Point. I didn't get into Madison right away. They claim they lost my application or misplaced it, which was, exactly.
You can't really see, but I'm giving the quotes.
In quotations. So, whether I would have gotten in had they had it in front of them or not, I'm not positive. I think I would have been on the edge. But anyway, so Stevens Point was, in quotations, my safety school. I went there for a year, had a good time. Some of my friends from high school were there as well. Then I transferred to Madison for a semester. I always wanted to be a Badger. When I got there and started experiencing it, I realized I had done most of it already when I was a kid, and it was just kind of the same for me. Plus, it was very hard studying all the time, and I just thought I don't want to do this for the next 3.5 years. So my aunt actually said, have you considered Whitewater? They have a good tennis team that you might be able to play on, and they've got a good business school also. So went there and did that.
You would leave UW-Whitewater with a business administration and marketing degree, and you would wear many hats. You kind of not bounced around, but you matriculated up the professional ladder during your career. What were some of your professional highlights up to this point?
I started inside sales, which I thought was handy and good. Got me talking with people and, be a little bit more of an open individual. I was a little shy in high school, I guess. So that was good off the bat. And then I got into property management, and I did that for 15 plus years. I loved it. Every day is a little bit different. You're always talking to different people and have different things that you need to handle. So it's not a monotonous job, but ultimately I didn't want to be on call anymore. Getting phone calls at 3 a.m. with people with flooded toilets or whatever kind of got old. So I looked for something that wasn't going to require me to be on call anymore.
You, at some point then, figured out that or maybe somebody told you that you might have a drinking problem, and you decided to quit. Now, when we talked earlier, most people don't begin their drinking careers or experimenting with drinking the way they ended. Because if they did, it might go up like a grease fire and it'd go really quick. When did you start experimenting with alcohol?
Yeah, I actually didn't drink at all in high school because we were just playing sports and hanging out with friends. So I didn't start until after high school. One of my friends got an apartment downtown Madison, so we would hang out there once in a while and dabble in that. Made some bad choices, blackouts, that kind of stuff. But it was like all of our friends were doing the same thing. So it was all, it was just normal. We were all drinking together. Then in college, I had friends. Kind of everybody thinks of Whitewater, and I've heard it from other people that it's kind of like a suitcase school. You just go there during the week and then you go back home on the weekends, which I found is only the case if you don't find friends and don't want to be there on the weekends. So I had a good group of friends. I played on the tennis team there. So we were always going out and doing stuff on the weekends and had a great time. And again, everybody was drinking, but they were all doing it. So I didn't think I had a problem. In my mind, I was drinking as much as everybody else. But then after college, I joined a bunch of local USTA tennis leagues in and around the Madison area. And I did that for 15 plus years also. And again, it's, you go play tennis and there's a cooler there. So eventually we got to the point where we're racing to the cooler. Whoever finishes first gets to go get the first beer, whatever. And again, everybody's doing the same thing. So you still don't think you have a problem, but it was constantly leading up and becoming more of an issue, I would say.
And as I've done some research, and you've probably done the same type of research, when it comes to consumption of alcohol, it takes more, as time goes on, it takes a little more to achieve what you're trying to achieve, which is the feeling of, people call it buzzed, or feeling they're trying to numb any kind of feelings they have. Over time, your tolerance goes up. And then, for the listeners that don't maybe know what a blackout is that Mark referred to, it's just you drink enough alcohol and it's a depressant and it starts turning switches off. And one of the switches that seems to go for a lot of people is their memory, completely blacked out, their memory from the night before, and they don't remember what they did the next day. And that can really carry a lot of emotional weight with people who have to spend the next 2 or 3 days asking, what did I do? Or having people come up to you, do you remember what you did or what you said?
Right.
And that can weigh on a lot of people. Because our listeners want to hear your story, and I want to hear it. I mean, I've read it, but I want to hear it from you. I need to talk about our sponsor one more time. So Buck and Honey's has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning, with 4 locations in the Madison area. One is always near. People ask me why Buck and Honey's owner, Tom Anderson, places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He has a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honey's does. On June 4th, 2019, Mark Heller would take his last sip of alcohol and has been sober as of today's recording, 2,217 days. And I want to offer up some congratulations to that. In segment 2, Mark Heller is going to talk us through how hard that was to do, and he will also share how great life is now in sobriety. So please stay tuned. Don't change that channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365 and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. The podcast is where I feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. Mark Heller is here today to share his harrowing story of getting sober and staying sober. He will share how he has survived and thrived since June 4, 2019. Mark hopes his story will help those who might be struggling with alcohol addiction to get sober. Since the show has a mental health component to it, you said in some of the information you sent back to me that you seem to be depressed all the time. Let's talk about the depression. Like, what was going on? How did you become aware of that you were depressed? What led to that point?
Yeah, I think for me, everything was good in life. I didn't have any problems. My job was good. I had good friends. Everything was fine. The only thing that was the issue was becoming dependent on alcohol for me, which was making me depressed. And then to solve that, I would drink more, and alcohol is a depressant. So when you look at it on the outside looking in, it's like, well, that was the dumbest thing you could have been doing.
Well, yeah, so that's that. I've heard that in circles, sobriety circles, and people getting sober of, all right, you're depressed already, so why would you pour more depressant on it? What were you, so besides wanting to and needing to maybe make yourself feel better because you were feeling sad, you were feeling down, you were feeling blue, are there any other symptoms that were glaring to you?
Well, I started drinking by myself, for one, if that's what you're asking, when other people weren't around. So I knew I had an issue, and inside I knew that I was better than that issue, but I so far couldn't, figure out how to get myself out of the situation that was becoming more and more obvious, which then only made me further depressed. And then again, you don't want to feel that way. So even if alcohol is depressant, at least it numbs the pain while you're doing it, obviously. And then the next day it just creates more issues for you. But everything was great. It's just alcohol is an addiction. And for a long time I was, in the camp, like, I'm better than this. Like, why is this doing this? But it's a disease. So once you can finally admit that and start asking for help.
Were you pulling the shades? Were you sitting on your living room couch and in a dark room, TV off, phone turned off because you didn't want to integrate with society?
It was a lot of laying in bed crying sometimes in the dark, praying a little bit about stuff. But yeah, there were times where you'd wake up and you just couldn't go to work because you were still either so drunk or hungover that you just couldn't, pull your head off a pillow. So you're calling your boss and saying you feel sick for whatever excuse this time. Like that, that only adds to your depression as well.
Yeah.
Lying to people.
I've heard of people coming up with different kinds of, really reasons why they were sick. Their son's sick, their kids are sick, their wife is sick, and you probably used a lot of those.
Yeah, and I didn't have kids, so I didn't have as many excuses. It's like, oh, today I've got diarrhea, tomorrow I'm puking out of, this end, and it's like, how many times can you do that before they start to figure things out?
And unfortunately, I'm probably sure they kind of did.
Correct.
During these times of mental struggles, we talked about the coping. Was there anything else that seemed to work besides having to pick up a drink? Was there anything that would alleviate something for you for even 10 to 15 minutes? Because there's people that are listening to the show right now that either they're in your situation, they know a loved one who's in the same situation you were. Is there anything you can give to our listeners who might need just one or two things?
Yeah, I think for me, playing tennis was a great break because it took my mind off of it, and I really enjoyed it. So I would say any sport or activity that somebody likes that they can go do. The only issue for me is that on the back end of that, we would have a cooler and we would drink out of it, or we'd go to a bar and get beers. But at least, you're in society, you're doing stuff with people that you have things in common with, and I was having fun. So I would just, don't give up all of your extracurriculars that you do that are for fun and sit in the dark. For me, that getting out 2-3 days a week playing tennis really helped.
And a good distraction for
Yep.
you. Who did you lean on for support once you were feeling depressed, feeling not, you looked at maybe drinking as something that it was a negative, that you didn't want to do it. You said, I'm better than that. Who were you was there anybody that you were leaning on for support?
Specifically, my wife, Jen. At the time, we were just dating. I think we were engaged, actually. I shouldn't butcher this, but I think we've been together for...
By the way, I'm going to give you an out here because men are not good at remembering that stuff.
I think we've been together around 12 years. I can't remember exactly. But, we were dating through a lot of this. We actually split up for most of a year because I was drinking and we had to figure some things out. But when we were actually apart is kind of when I decided that I needed to make some changes officially and finally. And I reached back out to Jen and said, I need some help, and she was willing. So she helped me a lot. We kind of got back together, at least unofficially in the beginning. And then I was telling you, we found this group called Life and Air, which is basically trying to make you a millionaire out of your lifestyle, basically. So a group of people that, we got involved with where you have other like-minded people that are going through whatever struggles, and you get in a room with them and you all get to share and talk about your problems and whatever. So I was able to cry in front of 30 people I didn't know for an hour straight about my alcohol, and then they, get it and they've been there and whatever. So that group, Life and Air, was awesome, but also Jen was huge, there every step of the way also.
We're going to have to make sure that I include that in the promo and anything else, because Life and Air is something that I had never heard of. Again, I'm mid-50s, but I act like I'm 39. But that's something that I didn't hear of. And if there's anything, people try 10 things, and this is their 11th thing, and it works and it hooks in, then it's done its job, and we've done our job.
Yeah, I think for me, after I cried for an hour straight in that first group thing that we were at for a weekend, another guy in the group walked up to me and gave me a huge hug and was like, "Hey man, I really appreciate you telling me your story, blah blah blah." And he just looked like an average normal dude, and I was that. So that hug, I was just like, "Holy crap!" People do care. It was awesome.
So my next question always is, did you start to notice any change in your demeanor once you started opening up about your depression, opening up about really something that could be deemed shameful, is that I'm an alcoholic, or I think I drink too much, and you already viewed that as not good? Did that start to change a little bit more and get the kind of the recovery path or journey started when you first opened up?
Yeah, I think for me, I was happy to start telling people about it, because I'd been living this lie for, forever, telling people I was fine, everything's okay. I drink more than the average person, I don't have a problem, et cetera, but I certainly did. So just, even when I just said to Jen, which obviously she knew I had a problem as well, but when I finally admit it and you say hey, I'm going to do something about it, a huge weight is lifted off your shoulders immediately, even though you haven't done anything yet, because you're taking the first step. So, if someone's listening and they're wondering, where do you start? Just literally tell anyone so that you're not in it on your own would be my suggestion.
Well, there's a book out there written by two guys that got into sobriety, and it's changed a lot of people's lives. And the first step in their 12th step process is admitting that you're an alcoholic, or you have an issue with alcohol, and that's the first step. And then there's some other steps that follow along that get you on that road. And you were probably doing some of those steps without even knowing it. And here you are, 2,217 days of sobriety, and people are going, I can't even freaking stay sober for 2 hours, and this guy's done it for 2,000 days. So you're going to paint a picture. So on June 4, 2019, you take your last sip of alcohol. Take us through what life was like before that day, the week, the month, the year, because it was probably I heard people say it was like that movie Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray. Get up, do the same thing over, do the next day is the same thing. Groundhog's Day. Go ahead.
Right, yeah, 100%. It was go to work, try to get through the day. On the way home, stop, buy booze, drink it on the way home, come home, drink as long as I could before Jen would show up. Usually she worked late, and then, try to pretend that you're sober when they got home. And that's not fun. That's only going to make you more anxious and depressed. And then it just continually got worse. So then it started being, I would take a drink at lunch. And then some days it was like, okay, now I'm going to drink in the morning. So, you have a problem when you're drinking day, morning, and night, morning, noon, and night. And then, it got worse and worse and worse until I knew I either needed to do something about it and I was going to fix it, or I was going to probably kill myself by drinking myself to death. So I had to make a decision.
And I want to say this, not because I'm a doctor or a counselor, but I've talked to enough doctors and counselors and such, is because it is risky to quit cold turkey and not pick up a drink and fight through withdrawal symptoms, especially if there's a chemical dependence that causes severe withdrawal with, getting sick, headaches, feeling just horrible. When a person stops, it is recommended that they go through the withdrawal period under the care of a physician, and that there's a lot of things that you can be addicted to, but the withdrawal symptoms are okay. Withdrawal symptoms and withdrawal from alcohol is one that actually can kill you, and those are my words. Those are words that I've read several times. What was June 4th then, 2019, like for you? How long did your withdrawal symptoms last, and what were some of those things?
It was terrible. So it was everything from getting the shakes at night when you're trying to sleep, sweating, through your sheets because you're detoxing. Jen was there with me, so for the most part, so she could help when I was shaking or doing whatever. I got to the point where I would be on the bathroom floor. I was puking. I was, pooping out blood, sleeping on the bathroom floor afterwards, still shaking and sweating. It even got to the point where then I started seeing like apparitions that weren't there in the middle of the night, which I looked into, and that's a symptom of severe
DTs, the delirium tremors.
Okay, yeah. So it was terrible. I kept thinking I was gonna that girl from The Ring that crawls out of the well or whatever. I thought she was like outside my door. It was so, and I'd have to get up to open the door to make sure that she wasn't there. It was the scariest thing in the world, and that's why I know I'm never going to do that again.
I think people need to understand that quitting drinking alcohol, or like I said, anything that's got a chemical dependence it's going to be hard, and it's hard work, and it's going to be tough. And I don't know, the people that I know that have quit have stories similar to yours, but they're not all the same.
Right.
Somebody might be able to quit a little bit easier. Some people it might be worse. And you were able to do that. You've been sober for over 2,200 days. What is life like for you now that you are sober?
So much better. Carefree, stress-free, and maybe not stress-free, but, at least no anxiousness, no depression. I don't get up feeling like I'm, doing anything behind my wife's back. I feel good all the time. Also, I have a lot clearer head, so I have a lot of abilities that I didn't have. You're, like you said, you're just getting up, and every day's Groundhog Day. You're just getting through the day. But now it's, as your show's called, I can now thrive, not just try to survive every day.
So I do want to go back quick. How long did that start for you to start feeling better before you now were not laying on the kitchen or bathroom floor? You were starting to sleep for 2-3 hours. You're still waking up, but then you're falling back to sleep a little bit quicker. I'd
say it was probably about a 2-week process for me of all of those bad things happening before I really got out of it a bit. And I kind of weaned myself off a little bit. So as I was detoxing, if I needed to, I would, take a pull of something, because I had done a lot of keyboard research on, how to detox yourself. And again, I wouldn't say this is how anybody else should do it. I would go to a doctor if you were doing it. But yeah, I didn't go cold turkey because I didn't want my organs to shut down, and I didn't want to die from it. So, but yeah, it took me 2-3 weeks, I would say, to have it get tolerable. And then after that, it was, I don't ever want to go through that again. So.
you don't want to ever go through that door again.
Right. Yeah. It's, I don't care what anybody says to me at this point. Like, I never want to feel that way again. So there's no reason I would ever drink, because that would be the end result probably.
I sent you some questions to help set up the interview, and you did a great job, because as I was reading through those, it brought me back to my own situation, and we talked, and people that have heard me talk, I had my struggles with alcohol as well, and have been sober since December of 2021, and I'm not ashamed of that anymore. I used to be.
Right.
But I'm glad that I took that first step of admitting, and then I needed to get professional help, because for years I tried to do this all on my own, and you're going to address that about doing it on your own, doing it alone, and it didn't work for you, and it didn't work for me. So one of the questions goes like this: what do you think you've accomplished that wouldn't have happened if you were still drinking? And you had a few accomplishments in there.
Yeah. Well, one, I don't think, I think I'd probably still be working my property management job. I wouldn't be doing the entrepreneur thing at this point, because like I said, I was just trying to struggle through every day. So, I had a job and I could do it and I was good at it. So I probably would have never searched for more or tried to be better. So that was, I guess, the first step. And then getting into that Life and Air group definitely helped in that area as well. But I certainly wouldn't be married to Jen also. And not coincidentally, I quit, June 4th of 19, and then we got married October 24th. So a few months later. I think she and I probably both needed to know that was the case before we got married. And then, now working with Wisco Real Estate Services, they never would have asked me to be a partner in that group either, because A, would still be doing property management, and B, probably wouldn't be the person that someone's trying to hire to be a partner in your business.
So you had to build up some trust with Jen. You had to build up some trust with some friends, maybe some old friends, but I know we talked about this as well, as that you've had to find some new friends to
definitely
find another sandbox to play in. And really it takes a long time. I think that's something that our listeners need to hear as well, is that just because you have 2 weeks of sobriety underneath your belt, everything is going to go back to normal. What took a long time to get to that point, and it's probably damaged some relationships, and it takes some time to get some of that trust back. And it sounds like you did that in that from June to October, a couple months, and really the best way to build that trust is follow through on what you kind of said you were going to do, and that's what you did. I have one other question, and it wasn't on the list of questions I sent you, is what would life be like if you were still drinking?
I don't know that life would exist if I was still drinking, actually. I think it got to the point where I knew that if I didn't make a decision and a change, that I probably was going to die.
Some of the red flags when you were talking about some of the withdrawal symptoms that you were having is either blood in your urine or blood in your stool. That's a huge red flag. If you're having delirium tremens or tremors, seeing things that aren't really there. And then certainly the dependence, your body gets to a point where it needs alcohol to operate, because of that big word, equilibrium. So you're going through depression, you're probably going through some anxiety, because your body's trying to really fight against all of that depressant that you've been throwing on it. This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, and pencils, and you're going to jot some things down. Here are Mark Heller's 5 suggestions that have allowed him to get sober and survive and thrive since then. Here's what you shared, and I'm going to toss these in underhand, softball style. You can hit a softball, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I know you can kick ball because you used to be a soccer player, but for some reason, softball, it had that same relationship with alcohol back in my day.
Yeah.
You went to play tennis. I used to go and play men's softball, City League softball, and play the first game. And then the second game, you start to dive into that cooler that is there. So I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Number 1, admit to yourself you have a problem, and then tell and then tell others you have a problem. For you, at least, until you admitted that you had a problem and you decided to do something about it, no one could have helped you. You thought that the individual has to want it more than they want the feeling of the alcohol, so you really wanted it. Go ahead and talk about that, and I'll have you hit that in 60 seconds or less.
Yeah, I think for me, you knew you have a problem for a long time. It's just you actually have to admit it to yourself. Yes, I knew I had a problem. I drank too much, and I always thought it. But until you sit down and you say, all right, dude, like this is a situation you need to get yourself out of, or something's going to go pretty bad here. And for me, I knew I couldn't do it on my own because I've been trying and thinking about it for so long. So I just made the first step just to tell anyone about it. So just,
and you told that big group, that full house group of people at the
Life and Air event.
Life and Air event.
Yeah, and so I cried for an hour straight in front of 30 people I didn't know, and then got hugs afterwards, and that was surreal and very awesome. But yeah, without, you got to take the first step to admit you have a problem. And I think it's a lot more common now that, a lot of people are getting away from drinking booze. It maybe wasn't as cool back when you and I did it. I don't know. But people definitely aren't out on the island by yourself. A lot of people are doing this. You just got to find other people to talk to about it.
All right, number 2, ask your friends, family for help when you are ready. And we already talked about this. Don't try to do it alone. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, so that's why I reached out to Jen, even though we weren't together at the time, because I knew that she cared about me and I knew she would be helpful. So I reached out to her and kind of was super vulnerable. It makes me want to cry, which is fun. But yeah, she was willing and came over, and we talked about things and started working on it together. My family was also helpful. They tried to come at it and help me from like the intervention standpoint, which wasn't what I needed personally. But doesn't mean they weren't trying to help. But what Jen was able to help me with and the Life in Her group, that was the two I think that really helped me the most.
Number 3, reach out to someone that has gone through it before or is going through it now, whether that is somebody in AA, someone you went through it, or anyone. And you said that you would be willing to talk about this with anyone that is struggling, and that is so awesome to hear. And if you can help one person, that makes you feel like you're kind of giving back. So go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, so when I decided that I needed to quit, I went to an AA meeting. I only ever went to one, and
AA is Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yes, sorry for those of you that aren't in this space yet. But I went to an AA meeting, and they ask everybody when you get there if it's anyone's first meeting. Well, I didn't realize that then if you raise your hand, if you're the only one that raises your hand, they make the entire meeting about you. So for the next hour, however long the meeting was, like everybody just said what their story was and talked about their problems, and then like it was just 100% concentration on me, which made me very uncomfortable, but also I think was good. It was good, but I didn't think I needed to go back to that. I also then reached out to a doctor that specialized in helping people. I went to a session there, but then ultimately for me, I just realized that I could get help from friends and family and other people. But if you at least go out and talk to other people that have experienced this, whether it's AA or a doctor or whatever, but that's what I wanted everybody to know too. Like, I'm willing to talk to anybody that wants to talk about this kind of stuff, because I wish I knew of someone that had gone through it that I could have reached out to at the time. And, I probably do know of people, but I just didn't know that there was somebody waiting for me to talk to them. So,
and a lot of people who are in that same situation that you are doing exactly what you were doing. You weren't going to talk about it. You wanted to suppress it. You wanted to not think about it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are living like that we don't even know, your neighbor, a relative. It's unfortunately, It does exist.
And it would be very hard for me to judge someone if, they were telling me their story, because I've probably done at least as much or, better, however you want to look at it, or worse. So yeah, I definitely would be willing to talk to anybody that, has an issue or wants to reach out to someone.
Number 4, surround yourself with the right people, not with familiar people. And I'm going to read this here, what you sent me. You will need to change your circle. People always say that you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. That makes a lot of sense to you. When you got sober, you lost about half of your friends. And I think people need to understand that other people there was always a common denominator, and that was alcohol. You use quotes because the people that were not interested in hanging out with you once you got sober were never really maybe your friends to begin with. They were acquaintances that liked having me around as a fun factor or to entertain them when you had gotten drunk. So go ahead and hit that, number 4.
Yeah, I stopped hanging out with a lot of people when I became sober, just because, like I said, a lot of them just wanted me, they encouraged me even to get drunk so that I was more fun or funny to watch at that point, which obviously only helped, hurt my situation. But at the time, you think they're your friends and you're all having a great time together. But once you did make a decision to do what's right for you and it's no longer what's fun or right for them, I lost a bunch of friends from that, or in quotations, friends. But yeah, so you can't change the people that are around you, but you can change the people around you. So I just found new people like that Life and Air group that, we were so close with everybody in that group, and, you could say anything at any time. You could call people all the time if you needed help with whatever. So it was just getting around people that were like-minded, that wanted to help people, didn't judge each other, and were there for you. Felt great. And I had to get rid of or release certain people from my life in order to move in the right direction.
And we talked about it. Get into it, find a different sandbox to play in.
Yep, 100%.
Different playmates. And last one, number 5, live a grateful lifestyle, like your shirt.
Yep.
And continually count your blessings. And you said we all have so many things to be thankful for, and where focus flows, energy goes. So if you focus on the positive things in your life, all of your energy will go towards positivity as well. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, so I'm wearing a shirt that says grateful on it. My license plate says grateful on it, and sort of the email tagline says stay grateful. So that's kind of my motto, is just be grateful. And, my wife tells me that your mind can only be thinking of one thing at a time. So if you're living in gratitude, you can't be thinking of negativity or stress or whatever at the same time. So, I get up in the morning and I walk around in the yard, do some grounding, talk about what I'm grateful for. We have so many things in life to be grateful for, and a lot of people just walk around complaining all the time. Well, then you're putting out that negative energy and negative vibes. So we try to be high vibe. We try to live grateful lifestyles, and it doesn't allow anything negative to come in and, take up space.
What a great episode. I'm so glad you reached out, having had your wife on the show, and I'm hearing a lot of the same things that she conveyed as well. And I'm glad you found a life partner, best friend that is into mindfulness and gratefulness, and I'm sure you've rubbed off on her just like she's rubbed off on you. So I'm so glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your story and how you have survived, and I said harrowing experience, having to go through what you described to us is really hard work, but in the end, I mean, you put the work in, and now you're sober over 2,000 and some days, and you would probably be the first to admit, I can't even get sober. I can't even stay sober for an hour or two.
Oh, yeah, and it's not like it happened the first time, right? I tried it plenty of times and failed, and tried again and failed, and you'd go a week or two, and, then I can make it 2 weeks sober, that's fine, and then the next day you just got hammered again, because I proved to myself I didn't have a problem. Well, yes, you did. You just put it off for 2 weeks.
Your story reminds us all to have coping skills or mental health tools in the toolbox when you decide to get sober, and that's really the time that you need them. And despite that, you have lived a sober, happy life, and I'm glad you were here to share that. Our call to action, Mark Heller just shared his incredible story and what it's like to get sober and stay sober. Here are Mark's 5 suggestions that helped him survive and thrive that time. Number 1, admit to yourself you have a problem and then tell others you have a problem. Number 2, ask your friends, family for help when you are ready. Don't try to go at it alone. Number 3, reach out to someone that has gone through it before or is going through it. Number 4, surround yourself with the right people, not with familiar people. And number 5, live a grateful lifestyle and continually count your blessings. Final thoughts as we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. Are there any final thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, I think for people that are going through it, I would just find something to be grateful about, right? Concentrate on the positive, and then I would just reach out to literally anyone. Start there, whether it's me or you or a friend or family member or a doctor or an AA meeting. Just like I said, for me, until I admitted it to myself and I asked for help, I was never going to get anywhere.
And that's such a good good advice. Just talk to somebody and unload. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learned to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.